All right, so I guess we can get started. There she is. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi.
Let's hope everybody can stay tuned in this time. Who knows?
Yeah,
So.
that was rough.
Yeah. Now, if you, I just uploaded a revised edition of this PowerPoint. So if you downloaded one before 10 minutes ago, I've changed it.
Okay. Yeah, I just saw it like about 2 minutes ago, so it's probably
okay. So here's our agenda: English 599, clarification of dates for bibs, everything, what's coming up, and Week8 discussion board. So English 599 is coming up next semester. We offer it once a year in the spring. It's a requirement for master's students. So you need to take it next semester, and it's going to be offered just like this one is, with dual modality, and it'll be at 7:30. So or 7:20, just like this one is.
Awesome.
Wednesday nights, yeah. So you need to take that if you haven't already. Otherwise, it'll hold up your graduation.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, will that be with you, Dr. Stewart?
It will.
Yay. Okay.
Can you handle that?
Yes, most definitely.
Actually, I teach a lot of the same stuff in that I've been teaching in this class. So it's just that I get to focus on that now in that class. And you'll do it if you're doing lots of internet search or research searches, treasure hunts, that kind of thing, searching for. I'll give you some really hard puzzles to solve in terms of finding research. They're so much fun. Sarah Northam loves it when I do this because everybody starts coming in and calling her, and so she gets to see the kinds of things I come up with. Do you remember 399? We did some searches, some kind of
searching for really obscure Kate Chopin things. Yeah.
Yeah.
In Google Books.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, it's about obscure and about really honing your resourcefulness and getting that intellectual curiosity piped up a little bit. So get signed up for that. What can I say?
Is
I don't know.
registration open now, or how does that work?
I don't think it's open yet. Does anybody know when it opens?
Probably in the next few weeks, I think.
Yeah.
I would think like November, but I don't know.
How many in here need to take it?
I do.
Okay. Okay. I guess I'll have a few. Shay, you do too? You think so?
I think I'm not sure, so I'll have to look at what I've got going on.
Okay, very good. All right. Next thing, due dates. Your full bib, that's the 10 entries, not annotated, is due on Wednesday, 10/24. Include your function statement in that. And then you're going to have Ferdinand, Red Riding Hood, or Ferdinand the Bull and Red Riding Hood. I'm going to describe that in more detail in a little bit. Due dates, annotated bib with function statement. And this is not Ferdinand, the movie that we know, because it's kind of expensive. So I decided not to do that. That route. Ferdinand? Yeah.
I'm still gonna watch
I love that movie.
I think I'm going to watch it too. If anybody gets to, that would be awesome, and we can incorporate it in our discussion.
I've seen it and I have it, so.
It's
Okay.
so cute.
Yeah.
I bet it is. And then due date, annotated bib with the function statement, due on Wednesday, 11/7, anytime. And then you've got a conference paper due on Wednesday, 12/12. That's finals week, if I've got my finals week right. That's not. Okay, so for online students, this is what you've got coming up. You've got, as always, response to the lectures. Week 9 is the bib with the function statement. Week 10 is, and we won't be in class. Week 9, that's next week. Week 10 is the giver, film and novel. Week 11 is annotated bib with Red Riding Hood and Ferdinand, and I've given you the links on that. So I changed that. All right, so you going to look at Ferdinand. I've provided that in doc sharing. It's the picture book, and it's in 3 parts. So you'll be able to view that. It'll be Ferdinand 1, 2, and 3. Red Hot Riding Hood, Story of Grandmother, and Perrault's version. So it's, and then you'll be also discussing your the article, your annotated bib that you're going to be turning in, and talking about your project. So it'll probably be split up about half and half. Or a third and a third, because what will we have had? Because we'll come back to Z for Zachariah. Is that no? No, we'll come back to the giver from the discussion board. So yeah, it'll be thirds, divided up into thirds. I have a lot to say about the giver too, about the novel just by itself. All right, here's the big change up, and that is Cinderella. You've got your, that's not right, is it? No. Is it? No. I thought I fixed this. I bet I had not both of them up. I hate it when that happens. Hold on. This one looks right. All right. Yeah, see that one? That one's right. There's that one. And then, okay, here's Cinderella. Here's you'll be reading this version of Cinderella, and then and this one's available on Prime. Oops.
Kate Blanchett's in it?
Oh, man.
That's the stepmother.
This is pretty amazing. I didn't know anything about this.
The magic will only last so long. At the last stroke of midnight, the spells will be broken, and all will return to what it was before.
The ragged servant girl is what you are, and that is what you will always be.
Cinderwench. Dirty Ella. Cinderella. That's what we'll call you.
Hello, Gus. Jacqueline. So this is where you take refuge. Me too, it would seem.
I bet you have never ever spoken to a man, have you?
I have once, to a gentleman.
You shouldn't be this deep in the forest alone.
Not alone. I'm with you.
I hope to see you again, miss.
It was my mother's old dress, you see. Oh, the shoulder's free. No! It's falling to bits.
You shall not go to the ball.
Excuse me, why are you crying?
Who are you?
I'm your fairy godmother, of course.
They don't exist.
Let me slip into something more comfortable.
Oh, that's better. It's beautiful.
Now off you go, for you shall go to the ball.
It's you, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, that waist? Yeah.
It's made of glass.
Why not?
Are you looking for this?
Oh, enough!
Where there is kindness, there is goodness. And where there is goodness, there is magic.
I'm going to show you another one, too, because it's so very stylized.
She watched it, like, we were gonna go watch it together, and then she went and saw it without me. I was very upset with her. She knows how much I'm
And she's skinny as a princess. You're very nice.
Welcome. I'm so happy to meet you.
You have such pretty hair. Thank you. You should have it styled.
Oh, I'm sure you're right. Would you like a tour of the house?
What did she say? She wants to show us around her farmhouse. She's proud of it, I think. Do they keep animals inside?
It's not the one I want. Or is it?
How charming. Pretty charming. Lucifer?
Her stepmother-to-be was a woman of keen feeling and refined taste, and she too had known grief, but she wore it wonderfully well.
Oh, man.
She does evil very well.
Oh. Shoo. Okay. And if you like, there's lots of commentary online by Kate Blanchett. By the director is Kenneth Branagh. Who else is in it? I don't know the male role.
He plays Rob Stark in Game of Thrones.
So, yeah. I'd never heard of it. And I'm kind of thrilled that it's available. I don't know what it's like, but I'm a huge fan of Kate Blanchett.
Yeah, I have no idea how she has the time to be in all the things she's in.
I know.
I just watched Ocean's 10 or whatever that is. And
Was it good?
it was good. It was different. Yeah, but I mean, it's good. She is awesome in it. It was really similar to the originals. It was like just women in all these roles. So she basically was Rusty. And for my view.
Okay, gosh.
Yeah, it's very weird. And then she's in that new movie with Jack Black that I want to see, The Clock Within the Walls or whatever.
That was a really cute movie.
Was it? I want to see it, but I didn't know if it was too scary for my kids. So
Well, how old is your kid?
7 and 4.
I was like, I took my 10 and 11-year-old, and they really enjoyed it. But
I think
yeah,
that
it
is
was
a good
really
age
cute.
for that. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, then.
Go by myself.
Week 13 is Thanksgiving. 14 is Wrinkle in Time. And we have Wrinkle in Time again with the graphic narrative. So we've got the novel, the film, and the graphic narrative finals week. I worked so hard on this. Questions so far? And I'll get that all straightened out on the blended side, because I still don't have it right. Apparently, I kept going back to the web one.
Can I clarify for just this coming week? So class is canceled next Wednesday, correct?
That's correct.
And then, but are we still posting into the discussion board for like Ferdinand?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
No, you're posting on this week. You're posting on Z for Zachariah.
Okay.
And you have until Wednesday to do it. You can do it anytime up until next Wednesday.
Okay.
And I think I've got that listed. Probably not. I thought I did. I think I don't know, maybe I don't. Yeah, it'll be due it's not going to be due on Tuesday, it'll be due on Wednesday. To give you an extra day. And that you can use the time that you would have normally used for class time to post it. So it frees up some time for you. Okay, does that get
so
everybody?
What are we doing?
What?
What are we doing?
You still do your response to lectures.
Okay.
All through. Week 9, we're off. It's the bib with the function statement.
Correct.
Week 10 is the giver, and you'll have you'll do the lecture response with all of the rest of these. Week 11, your annotated bib is due with Red Riding Hood and Ferdinand.
There it is.
Okay. That's where I was confused. I was like, wait, what?
Okay, it's on the PowerPoint. So have you gotten to download it?
I'm doing that now.
Okay. So yeah, week 11, annotated bib with Red Riding Hood and Ferdinand. Week 12, Cinderella. Week 13, Thanksgiving. Week 14, Wrinkle in Time. Week 15, Wrinkle in Time, and Finals Week.
Okay. All right. Now I'm straight. I know what I'm talking.
Yeah. Pay attention. This is the one to pay attention to. The syllabus we've left it long behind.
Yeah, I realized that the other day. I was like, oh crud. So I was like, I wrote everything down from the last lecture in my calendar, so I'll go in and do all this too.
Yeah, this is what you pay attention to is our website. I try to keep everything updated there. I don't, I try to, and it backfires most of the time, it looks like.
And we only have to do the response to the lecture if we're not live with you. Still.
That's correct.
Okay.
As usual.
Okay. Because I won't be here Halloween either.
I won't either.
Yeah. I'll be here. Maybe.
Too many kids.
Could you clarify the function statement?
A function statement should be located on.
Is that just like how we're going to use our?
No.
That one was like, this bib identifies some of the most relevant scholarship regarding blank, or.
Right. That was lecture. I wrote all that down too.
Here it is, function statement. This bibliography identifies some of the most relevant scholarship regarding whatever your topic is. Okay? And your topic should be about shouldn't be huge. And I just need that so that I don't have to go back to your proposal to look and see what you're doing. And some of you have updated your proposals anyway. Okay, does that get everybody clarified?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so here's the discussion board, and we're going back to, is this right? Wicked? Okay, so good. Jill talks about the brutality of the novel. You know what, I don't know why it didn't occur to me, that brutality. I mean, yes, Alphaba bites the finger off, and those vicious teeth of hers to start with. And then
It's alive.
it's alive. Nearly choking on the blood from the severed finger, cruelty to animals, Munchkinlanders, weird sexual innuendos, and what on earth happened at the Philosophy Club. It was quite a ride. The death of the bees and dogs at the end was even more horrific, seeing it from this side. It was bad enough in Bomb Stories. It seemed seemingly unneeded brutality from the Tin Woodsman. Elphaba's death was something I dreaded. I kept hoping for a plot twist at the end. I will never see Dorothy the same again. Yeah, and the original story has changed completely for me, after reading Wicked. We're going to talk about that with Z for Zechariah too, because once we get a hold of a different text, it changes. It can't help but to change our perception. There's no unringing the bell. It will have rung, and it'll be in the recesses of our memory somewhere along the way. So yeah, what about that cruelty? It really is a violent book, and I don't know why I didn't think of it as a violent book. It is.
Didn't occur to me.
It didn't occur.
One of my friends warned me ahead of time when I told her, I was like, oh, we're reading Wicked for a class. And I was like, I've never seen the musical, but I read school. And she was like, if you watch the musical, do not base that book off of the musical. Because she said that when she read it as a teenager, she was like, I thought it was just going to be like the musical, this fun, happy story. And she was like, and then I read it, and she told me, she was like, there's this really weird sex scene with puppets at the beginning. And she was like, at about 13, I just put the book down because I knew I probably shouldn't be reading this right now. And then when I read it through, I was like, yeah, you were right. That was a good idea to stop that book.
I read it in 8th grade, and I was just like, this is definitely a book I shouldn't be reading, but I'm gonna read it anyway.
Yeah, and there's another post later on where there's just so much sex, discussion of so much sex. So yeah, I think perhaps one of the reasons, now we've agreed that I think that Oz, the Wonderful Wizard of Oz, the Baum's novel is pretty violent, except what happens, I think, with that is that thing that I mentioned a couple of weeks ago about inattentional blindness, that part where, it's a children's book, so we just kind of put that violence someplace else, and it's a fantasy, so this isn't real, even though the book, it isn't a fantasy. These things really happen to Dorothy. So I think maybe because of that shift from a very obvious children's novel to an adult novel with Wicked, I didn't pay attention to the violence because I'm used to violence. I read Stephen King.
That's what I was going to say. I guess it depends on your perspective, what you're used to.
reading.
Yeah. And I mean, it could be partly because it is an adult novel, and so we kind of expect more adult, like things that adults aren't going to, quote unquote, notice as much.
Well, I think we're desensitized a lot in our culture now too, because of the things that we see on TV and the things that we read in adult novels. Like it doesn't even bother us anymore. We can eat supper while watching NCIS, where they're like grinding people up through meat grinders. Like, oh, that kind of looks like what I'm eating. But you're not wrong.
Meatloaf.
Yeah. No, I was eating spaghetti once, and I was watching CSI, and they put somebody through a meat grinder, and I was like, not it's okay with this right now.
Not a good time to watch. Well, and I can tell you too that I started getting desensitized at a very young age, because when I was young, the Vietnam War, I'm putting that in quotation marks because it wasn't a declared war. The Vietnam War was going on, and it came on at 5 o'clock, and we ate at 5 o'clock. And so we'd be eating supper and hearing about body counts, watching the footage on on the evening news. And it started then, I think, with me, is to hearing all of this. And we were very concerned because I had a cousin. We had a very close cousin in Vietnam. Came back forever changed, to say the least. All right, Sarah. And this is, that question is kind of dangled around in my head in the past. I have always wondered, why is there no Witch of the South? The East, the West, and North hold consistent places in The Wizard of Oz, Wicked, and the Wicked Broadway production. Just a question I've always had as to why the Southern region was never represented.
I actually said something about that, and Madame Horrible did. But she was like, the Southern part doesn't seem like we're going to really have to have any, power over there.
But it doesn't get explained in Baum's, does it?
No.
In Baum's, the Witch of the South is called Glinda.
Yeah,
there's two.
And the Witch of the North was just the Witch of the North.
She didn't even have a name.
Okay. And is the Witch of the North good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's the East and the West that are wicked, and the North and the South that are good. Yeah. Good, in quotation marks. Yeah, we have to start doing that. Okay, question answered. All right, Shay. I'm going over the responses to The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. I was really struck by someone's comment that Dorothy was seen as a hysterical young girl. You want to address that, Annie?
It just really struck me, I guess, because I also watched Return to Oz a lot as a kid. and I know we haven't really discussed that movie, but they put Dorothy in an asylum, and she goes through electroshock therapy because they think she's become a hysterical girl and making up all of this Oz stuff. And so it really struck me that we could see it in the novel and the movie and everything else. Like, I guess I hadn't noticed it before, but because she doesn't really do much besides kind of like float. Like, she's just kind of there. Everyone else has has something to do with the novel. But like someone else said that there was no growth in her character, essentially. And I think that's because she's kind of who's making up everything and probably, insignificant. There we go. That's where I was looking.
She is pretty insignificant.
So, I mean, it just kind of really struck me because I'd seen the movie.
Yeah.
And
sorry,
you're breaking
actually,
up on me.
She's you're breaking up on us too, which you can't hear because we're breaking up. She gets upset when Miss Gulch. Now, I'm not going to call that hysterical. She gets to be upset. We're talking about they want to destroy the dog, Toto, but in general, she's pretty calm through. She goes through a tornado.
I'm back.
Hey, yay! Not really.
Sorry.
You just think you're back. There you go. She goes through a tornado and lands in this other land, and she stays pretty calm through it all. Who's the most quote hysterical?
Cowardly Lion.
Yeah. Interesting. Because he's a coward. Stephanie.
I'm back.
Go ahead. Oh, go ahead, Shay. Sorry. Did you want to say something, Shay?
No, I lost for a second. I was trying to make sure I was actually back.
Yeah. For a minute. All right. This one's long, and
Okay.
this is the thing about the sex thing. Stephanie. Of the novel's many themes, the one I found most fascinating is also the one I greatly disliked in part. This became the sexual liberation of its characters. The class mentioned this theme with the character of Melina, I couldn't remember how to say her name, and the very, very odd sexual play, The Clock of the Time Dragon, at the start of the novel. To put it in scholarly blunt, there's a lot of sexing up in this book. And it's true. Prior to her death, say it again? Melina, right? Melina. Melina had an affair with Turtleheart, who is presumed to be the true father of Nessa Rose. But what is surprising of this is the reaction to Freck's father, believes, of Elphaba. He not only knew of this affair, but admits to Elphaba that he too loved Turtleheart, and that he and Melina were, did I say it right that time? Okay. Shared, I don't know why, I've got some kind of block.
It's like Selena.
Or like Melina's, kind of, shared Turtleheart. Just about every character expresses a sexual liberation, and it provides a way to flesh out characters, adding another layer of identity, but also objectifies others. By revealing his affair, Frex is suddenly a much more complicated man, as he is shown to possess far more of an ability to love than he appeared to before. However, by mentioning how he and Melina shared Turtleheart, there seems to be a stripping of identity of Turtleheart, as this world provides an imagery of an object being handed back and forth between two people. And whatever Turtleheart thought of this arrangement is never to be known.
Because like an object he was disposed of.
Yes, he was. How did he just...
The Munchkin-letters hanged him, didn't they?
They killed him. Yeah, they needed a sacrifice for one of their rituals.
Yeah.
And
and he was it.
The wrong place, the wrong time.
And so he's just done for. So that was a pretty interesting thing to bring up, I thought. Yeah, and this is there's a lot of sexual liberation, and yeah.
One thing that really, it was really subtle, but like Crope and Tibbet's relationship. First of all, I think they were together, but
I do too.
Also, one of them died in the Monterey. Wasn't he like dying of AIDS? I thought. Like they didn't actually say AIDS, but like that's the impression that I got. Like wasn't Elphaba tending to one of them when he died?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was the one that was selected to participate in the thing at the philosophy club.
Yeah, that was that that exercise in whatever that was.
Yeah, with the tiger.
It was weird.
And Yackle was there too, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's it's some kind of punishment for being. That may come up in another post here. Punishment for being for experimenting, sexual experimentation, and what might have been considered deviant. Yeah. Well, and Turtle, what's this? Turtle Heart, too. Now, Frex and Melina don't pay for it, but he pays for it. But
is it because he's a quadling?
It could be because he's a quadling, but didn't he kind of also initiate it? Or did she?
It was all kinds of hussy. She was all over that. Anything that came through the door.
Yeah, that's true.
And
I thought
Frex. Sorry.
I was just saying, I thought they both were just kind of like he just shows up, she serves him a meal, and then they're like,
hello,
let's go have sex.
Yeah.
And then they just do it, and he just sticks around.
As Nanny says, she's a lusty one.
Yeah. She wants her chance to have a romp with Uncle Flagpole.
And Michael, as soon as Dorothy Gale enters the story, fear struck me. I knew how this would play out, and it really bothered me. So I wasn't the only one that had that sense of apprehension the moment that Dorothy comes in, because I just forgot about her. You know, she's forgettable.
She really is.
She really is. From the novel and the film, she's forgettable. Except she has a great voice and does a lot of singing. It is interesting that Stephen King was brought up in the lecture. Stephen King is such an amazing writer of character that I often find myself not wanting the horror to mess up what he has established. And I'm kind of fine with the horror. I don't know why. I have nightmares from that kind of stuff, but I felt much like that with Dorothy. I wanted to say, wait, we don't need this. These characters and story are enough. Of course we need the payoff of the water and melting, I guess. But the hope that the character lives on does give me some hope. So other attitudes about, or opinions about what would have happened if...
In the place she does live.
Okay.
Like the melting is like a sham. And then like
awesome.
Fiyero is the scarecrow. Like in the book, she really wanted it to be Fiyero, and in the play it is. And they like leave Oz forever together.
Oh, that's... Okay.
A different ending.
Michael, that might make you happy. Maybe you now need to see the play. Danielle, one thing I wanted to mention, theme of motherhood. Yes, here again, we are faced with all kinds of mothers, other mothers, with Nanny and Madam, yeah. She's not a good woman. And Elphaba and their lack of mothering. Let's see, the mother who doesn't see her child as her child, like we see with Elphaba and Lear. She doesn't see Lear as her son, and he never takes responsibility for him until it's too late and he is a teenager. Well, we have some pretty disappointing mothers. Looking at you, Melina, we haven't seen one that refuses to believe that her child is really her child. While Elphaba tries to take responsibility for the change in her country, she refuses to take responsibility for her child. And I never liked, that's one of the things I dislike so much about about Elphaba is her refusal. Even if it's not her son, she still has responsibility for him. And those nuns sent him off with her. They know where he came from. And I mean, we could make up a story of where he came from, where he doesn't come from Melina. From Elphaba.
She did have some sense of responsibility for him, though. I mean, she drilled Manic in the head with an icicle for.
Well, yeah, but that comes late.
Right? But,
yeah, that comes late.
She does develop it over time, though, and she
But
felt that her whole trip there was for the purpose of taking him home to his father's home, right? And kind of atoning for. Yeah, I mean, that was what she wanted most, right? She wanted forgiveness for everything.
She wanted forgiveness, but she didn't
think that he was just like a bonus action. I didn't, because for the longest time, I had no idea, like, that came out of left field for me because she was so far removed from him. It never even occurred to me that Lear was her child until it blatantly said it. And I was like totally taken aback. And my thought for her sole purpose of going was to ask for forgiveness, because that's even what she says later whenever she's wrestling with the fact that Dorothy's here, and Dorothy's not actually here to kill me. She's here just to ask for forgiveness, something that I never got. Like, Lear never even comes into that picture whenever she's wrestling with that in Dorothy's presence.
And she wouldn't have taken him. The nuns make him.
I don't know. For my mind, as soon as I saw the kid, in my head, the kid in the cart with her, I knew he was the son. So I guess maybe
I suspected
it was implanted in me. Maybe subconsciously, I was like, oh, she's taking him home. So that was kind of the impression I got from it. So I guess you could read it either way.
Right.
I don't get the sense that, well, if she's taking him home, it's just because she's heading that way.
She's planning to disappear, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, her ultimate goal is, I'm going to deliver this child to
get rid of him, even though
home, ask for forgiveness for what happened.
Even though he's my child, even though he's my child, I'm going to give it to
surrogates.
She is in a bit of denial about that, though. She has no memory of it, right? She was in a coma or whatever for a year, so
yeah. I don't know.
I can kind of see where she's coming from.
I mean, she didn't have to take on a mother-son relationship. She was just
apathetic.
Apathetic, and what's the other word that I want? Just what's the word when you don't take care of?
Irresponsible.
That too. It's more of a legal term that. Negligent. She was negligent, I thought.
I mean, a lot of that could also, I mean, she doesn't have really that great of.
No, she doesn't have any, she's kind of on the scale in terms of, for instance, Asperger's. She doesn't do well with communicating with other people.
She doesn't have good role models for parents.
No.
Really.
No.
I mean,
no.
Yeah.
All right.
Seeing Lear's name up there reminds me, in one of the later books, it's revealed that his name came from the missing letters on the bottle of elixir.
Of course it does. Of course it does. So how are the others?
So I didn't read them. My significant other, ENG, the invisible student in this class, and I feel like I talk about her every time. Anyway, she liked the second one. She wasn't so wild about the lion among men. She said she just started the third one just the other day. So.
Okay.
And that's one's about Dorothy. I guess that they're convinced again that she's out of her mind, and so they've taken this trip to San Francisco to try to convince her. I don't know, there's some kind of thing going on to try to bring her to her senses.
Okay. All right. Here's Thomas. I also appreciated McGuire's choice of narrating her tale through the perspective of those around her, as well as occasionally from Elphaba's point of view. So that we get, of course we don't really, because it really truly is one author writing this, but through voices like Sarima, is that her name? Mm-hmm. Yes, Sarima. Through her, we hear different thoughts from other people about her. Fierro, for instance, and Nanny, and Nessa Rose, and so actually we get a pretty complete view of a lot of characters. There's a lot of character development that occurs through this particular kind of narrative technique, that we get all kinds of insights. But as I said, that's the irony of narration, because it's one person actually telling the story. It's the author, and assuming different voices. So there's that part. And now for Zachariah.
I'm so ready to talk about everything I hated about that movie. So ready.
All right, let's talk about it.
That movie was the worst. I hated everything about that movie. And the way they changed it, I mean, you want to talk about narrative transformation, that changed everything about the story. They basically only kept the title and the characters of the names.
It was utterly devoid of suspense and tension, everything that made the novel so compelling. Mm-hmm. It was completely
and the weird
flat.
Racial thing, real bad. Didn't like that at all.
There wasn't even a climax. It was like this is my opinion. I think we're on the same page here, but
we are.
It was just this. There was a narrative trajectory, but there weren't really any ups and downs. There was just kind of this steady, slow incline to the end, and then it ends and it's over, and that's it.
I kept waiting for Mr. Loomis to
And the ending was awful too.
It was awful, and you don't even. So we're all pretty sure that he dropped him off the ledge, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, we're pretty sure of that, but again, they leave it open to interpretation, right? There's this little hint. You think, well, maybe he saved him, and there was some kind of exchange, and he was like, "Okay, I get it. You guys are fine. I'll go on my way." Maybe that's possible. I don't know, but I'm 90% sure he dropped him off the cliff.
There are a couple of things that I'm going to show in a little bit that would dispel that.
Well, I'm not at all sure that I don't think that
it
that's
still doesn't
possible,
prove it,
but
but at least
they left the door open
a whole
little
bunch of
bit.
evidence.
It was the fact that they pitted them against each other, and it very clearly was based on their race. The moment he said, "You two can go be white people together," I was like, "Oh, this movie is a load of shit. This is awful." Like, they're just. It made me so livid. My mom texted me and she was like, "Oh, that movie you're watching, Z for Zachariah, is on TV." And I was like, "Don't watch it. Don't even waste your time." It was so. And the way they changed Annie, she's like this strong, independent female character who, like, I read this article that described her as like she's refusing the stereotype. She's refusing to be Eve, essentially. Like, she is refusing that, and I loved that about her as a character. But in this version, love Margaret Robbie, but man, that was a bad character. She's just dependent on everybody. She's weak. She's helpless. She just gives in.
It's kind of like the worst part of all females, like the whole waffling back and forth business and like forsaking and like, ugh.
I feel like she's willfully naive.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like they made her that way because of her faith. They painted her naive because of her faith.
And such a terrible stereotype, just in general, of
Also,
people of faith. Plus, she has the accent, the terrible Southern accent.
Yeah, I've heard that accent before. I have.
I don't know. It didn't work for me. It didn't sound genuine to me.
Oh,
Yeah, but I thought it was part of the stereotype.
she's weirdly sexualized in that movie. Very weirdly sexualized.
And she's not in the novel?
I mean, I feel like in the novel she had some agency. Like, she has some control over her sexuality, at least. Like she refuses.
I had a lot of time, a really, really hard time with the novel
Really?
this time around. And I'll tell you why. And it's not because, well, and I had, in my other class, we read Out of Darkness, which is a really disturbing novel, and it has.
You read those two books together this week?
Yeah.
Oh. I know exactly where you're going.
You know where I'm going.
Uh-huh.
So I'm listening to the Kavanaugh trials. I'm watching President Trump say what he says. I'm watching women saying that they can't come forward because we know what happens. Why didn't you report it? And I had to leave off Facebook and leave and get out. I canceled a lot of my online or my streaming shows. And I had to stop watching another show where it was yet another woman at risk, because I just keep seeing women at risk. And I was so upset by the time, I mean, even though I've read this 4 or 5 times, I suppose. And I know she's going to make it out. I know she's going to get the suit. But that whole time when he's threatening her, when he's looking at, watching, wanting to control her so much, and he is gaslighting her. And I was really, really, really upset by that. I could barely make it through. And that's not who I am. Not in the least. I am not like that. But circumstances have changed now, for now, until I harden back up, how I view these kinds of things, if I do harden back up.
Well, and what made it scary for me is when she realized what he was trying to do, that he wasn't trying to kill her, he was trying to wound her so he could control her.
Yes.
And that's
when I just kind of lost it.
I started getting like really upset with her, the character, when after he tried to force himself on her, she still was trying to help him and split everything evenly, even though she sees that he's watching her, sees that he's teaching her brother's dog to track her so that he can find her whenever she wants, and she's still doing it. I'm like, you have 2 guns. You've mentioned you have 2 guns. You mentioned that you're a really good shot. Why would you live in fear of a man who's twice your age that could easily kill you because you're not doing anything about it? It just made me super angry until the end of it, and I was like, you should have just killed him.
I think you could look at that as a very interesting allegory of women versus patriarchal society. I mean, this consistent return. She essentially has a thought still in her mind. She's convinced, I need him. I am dependent on him. As soon as he comes to picture, she's perfectly fine on her own, but she feels like she needs him.
Well, and she's been conditioned to, this is how her life is going to be, in a rural town, daughter of a preacher, a religion-based community, and she's been conditioned that she will marry and have children. And that's what she wants. There's not, I mean, she talks about wanting to read books. Does she talk?
She talks about how she likes doing the farm work at one point. He tries to take that away from her, and she's like, I don't want you to. I enjoy it. I read her, maybe it's stretching it a bit, I read her as not like necessarily realizing she's a lesbian, but I read that into her character because she talks about how like she prefers to do, and maybe stereotypical, but she prefers to do the man's work, she prefers to wear man's clothing, and then she thinks she wants to get married, but the moment he makes sexual advances on her, she's immediately like, oh no, this is not what I want.
Well, except I was thinking at that time that if he would have handled it right, she would have willingly. She would have
She was
willingly.
mentioning that within the year they could be married once she was 17, like without a preacher or anything, but they could still be married. But you know, a grown man coming into your bedroom at like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Well, this is not good.
Yeah.
This is not.
remember though too that she is only 16 and comes from a very like, you know, reserved and conservative family. She probably doesn't even know exactly what's going on or what it would, outside of the farm animals, what it would take to have kids. Like she probably, that's probably one of the things that scared her so much is she didn't know what was going on top of the 3 o'clock in the
She
morning.
does mention she's pretty well read. Like she mentions quite a few books that are probably more towards adult themed as well. That
Except not in the movie. It's all Christian novel or books, and of course they had to bring in A is for Adam, the picture book, so they could get to the Z for Zach.
But it's different to be well versed in fiction than it is to be well versed in reality.
Yeah.
I think that's part of
Yeah, and our farm kids are notorious about knowing the birds and the bees.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think she
Right,
did know.
but still,
But she doesn't
I feel like she'd
know.
still be pretty innocent.
She's, yes, very naive and not making these connections necessarily because she
Right.
doesn't.
Well, like the valley is sheltered and she too is sheltered. Like it's metaphorical as well as literal.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of metaphor happening there. I mean, with family name, her name is
Burden.
Ann Burden, right? They're in Burden Valley on Burden Farm. I mean, it's
Which is also
kind of hammering it in there. Plus, I mean, and she kind of takes on the patriarchal role in the relationship with this man, right? And there's even that scene where when was it like after she was playing the piano or maybe she was reading to him and she took his hand.
Is this in the novel?
It was in the novel,
Okay.
and she took his hand,
Yeah, she
and
was
she
sick.
noticed his hand was soft,
And hers was
and
callous.
hers was hard and callous. And you know, she's doing all the work. She's working the land. The other thing too, just because I've been on this gardens thing desperately,
I know.
trying to make this
I couldn't help
happen.
but to see the garden again.
There's this. I mean, just the fact that she comes from a biblical perspective. In the beginning, after he shows up on the scene, she has this. The crab tree is in bloom, right? These apple blossoms, and she has this very view of this innocent, like, oh, well, we could be married and we could have children, and it'll be wonderful. And then when the tree comes out, you know, he gets better, and everything kind of turns pretty dark. Then the tree is in bloom, and I kind of thought it was sort of an allegory a little bit for sort of the Garden of Eden, you know, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Well, there's the fruit then. So this relationship is born
crab
as
apple
true
tree, isn't
fruit, and then she's exiled, right? She's exiled from her own farm. That place bears her name, and she ends up having to leave, man. She didn't have to. I'm with you. Why didn't she just put a bullet in his head?
Should have shot him. Then he's
I
still
thought
back
that
up.
so many times, in the end, especially when she's aiming at the dog. I'm like, kill the dog, kill the guy.
Don't kill
the dog.
Don't kill the guy. Above his head to make him like freak out, so she could pretty much kill the dog with the stupid stream. And I'm like, no. Aim correctly, hit him right between the eyes. It's fine.
You can
You'll
do
get
this.
over it.
You can do this.
Oh, that killed me. That killed me. I was like, don't shoot that dog. Whatever you do.
That dog did not deserve it. That poor dog. Being
I
used to
know.
hunt
I know.
his older sister is just messed up.
I think there's lots of ways you could look at her and see like a stereotypical rape victim.
Yes.
At one point, he almost, I think it's when he grabs her hand and he's like holding on to it tight. And he says to her, why did you ask that? She says, I said I was sorry, but I didn't know why I need to be the one apologizing. He was the one who did it to me. And the battle in her mind of she leaves and lets him have the house. I mean,
She's used to being, she's accustomed to a man being the head of the household, and he fits that part very, he comes in and after she nurses him to health, I can only think that he just is crazy.
Well, and I think she has this mentality that a lot of people have in unhealthy relationships, and why they stay, even if they're victims of abuse, is just like, okay, well, I can make this work. And that's why even when she was exiled, she was still like, okay, I can make this work with him. We can share, we can both live here, and it will get better. It will get better, but it never really does.
Especially
No.
considering he tells her, like, whenever she gets over the stupidity, immediately I would have been like, Sonny's never gonna stop trying to hurt me and chain me to his side. But she just kind of almost ignores it until, you know, she finally gets shot in the leg.
Of course, this is a world where there's only the two of them, as far as they know. Everything else is gone. So, first off, they're not going to be able to repopulate the world. It might have happened in the Bible, but it can't happen.
Then you're just gonna let your kids die. You're pretty much just bringing kids in to die.
To die. And what are they going to do for mates?
Like,
Each other?
Yeah. Like
So-
that's
It's very much like Lot and his daughters. We're just gonna procreate this day.
Yeah.
I think it was reasonable to assume, though, that there were, seemed to me anyway, granted, she had a limited perspective, but it seemed to me it's reasonable to assume that there was somebody, there's a chance that somebody out there, somewhere else,
Like,
you know, in a bunker or something like that, somewhere.
Well, I mean, he even mentions that he saw birds flying overhead west, but he just couldn't find it.
Yeah.
I would be willing to believe there are other people, but I think it's unlikely they would be able to get to them.
Yeah. Without that suit.
That's the problem. And that whole notion of taking out, now she's got moxie. She survived. She survived and even thrived.
She ran the whole farm.
She ran the whole farm. She's gotten herself together, gotten things figured out, has crops, eggs, chickens, fishes.
Eventually we'll have
Calves. Yeah.
She's wanting to repopulate the herd.
Yes. Now, is it in the novel that she says that she almost gave up? No, that's in the movie.
Yeah.
They're running together.
She seemed pretty content in the book before he came along.
Yeah,
she was doing
she
good.
did. She was okay.
No, he was definitely kind of helpful with the whole like gas thing. She probably would have never figured that out, or if she did, it would have probably been a lot later whenever she stumbled upon one of the books or something. But that's about it.
It's very much a reversal of the creation story. So God creates man, and man is alone. He says man should not be alone, and woman comes in, and she is the one who causes the fall, right? But in this story, we have essentially an Eve who's perfectly content and doing perfectly fine by herself. And then Adam, man, comes along and essentially ruins everything. I didn't read either the film or the movie as a happy ending.
No.
Neither. I thought the same thing you thought, that she's going to go off in that suit. He said it wasn't made to stay sustainable for a long time, so she's going to go off and...
Yeah, and we do have to do a lot of willing suspension of disbelief in this, because just the outside of the suit, I would think, would be contaminated already, and heavily contaminated. So that doesn't quite work, but that's okay. All of that's okay. I can ignore that because that's not what it's about. What this novel is about. It's not necessarily about creating a world that we can believe in term. I mean, an anomaly like that that's going to leave this one area.
Weather patterns.
Yeah, probably not.
It's meteorological inversion, though.
Well, here's the thing: the weather is still going to come from somewhere. Like you're still going to have rain clouds that build up over radioactive areas. So, like,
it's going to.
There's a saying in science fiction circles where you know there are two types of writers. You either dazzle them with brilliance or you baffle them with bullshit.
There's some bullshit going
There's the
on
hard
here.
science fiction. It's the difference between hard science fiction and space opera, right? Where you just kind of make something up and go with it. And
Yeah.
That's kind of where they went with that, I think.
Yeah,
Or you
because
went with that.
this probably couldn't, but that's not the point of the story. I mean, there's a reason that I like, well, until The Walking Dead turned into what it did, with that character that it turns so vicious and bloody. I mean, it was always bloody. We're talking zombies.
I'm glad you brought that up. I had a thought on that, but
I watch that because I'm interested in survival.
Mhm.
And it's intriguing to watch how people in these particular situations in a dystopian world survive. I'm fairly sure that I've read enough that y'all need to take me with you for the zombie apocalypse.
We're taking you over to the state capitol building. Already planned that.
So, okay, so what are you gonna say?
I thought about The Walking Dead while I was reading this, and I was so disappointed that the guy turned out to be. I kind of had some indication that he was going to go that way, and I was so disappointed because one of the things that irritated me about Walking Dead and why I jumped the ship, I stopped watching it around the time that Negan came into play, was because here's yet another guy, right? Another governor.
I'm not talking about Negan. I'm talking about the next one down the road.
Oh, see, I didn't even make it that far. As soon as I got to Negan, I jumped ship. After they went in, they murdered all the people in the satellite place anyway. But in general, my thought was, okay, I get it. Human capacity for evil, right? There's just, in this kind of situation, with him having taken care of, or her having taken care of him, I just felt like, granted, I mean, it clearly is a little bit insane, right? And that obviously plays into it, but it was really disappointing to me because that was kind of what turned me off of The Walking Dead. It stopped being it was less about surviving the zombie apocalypse and more about surviving what humans became after the zombie apocalypse, which is kind of a drag for me. But anyway, that and I don't know. I guess that was my main
I
thought.
did like that she was like, you didn't even thank me for saying
And then she called herself, she thought, that was childish. But it's not childish.
Oh.
I would definitely throw that in his face. Like, I literally nursed you back to health while you had radiation poisoning. Granted, I could have stopped you, but I didn't know you. And now I'm just like, you just should have pushed him back in for like another 10 minutes.
Would have taken care of you.
Yeah. And he would have suffered. It wasn't great. Yeah, I was already kind of skeeved out whenever she mentioned that she hadn't turned 16 yet, and he had shaved and cut his hair and everything, and she was like, he looks a lot younger, like maybe 32. I swear if they get together, I'm not going to be happy, because that's just creepy and gross. Like, even if she, yeah, and even if she, she's obviously going to mature more because of this, but she's still only 15. Like, that's just...
Yeah, but that's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
That's a cultural thing. And a relatively recent cultural thing.
And references to other works. It just is just coming from a personal perspective again. I was reminded, especially in the beginning half of the book, a lot of Richard Matheson's I Am Legend.
Yes. Yes.
Just the way that he thinks, the way that he goes about his day-to-day routine.
Routine, that's it. You have to have
It's
routine.
you establish this pattern where you do things, and that's kind of what sets your new normal, right?
Yeah.
Both of them, I had the same thought when I read the book and watched the film. I've never read I Am Legend. I don't know if it was a book or a movie.
It's a book. It's really good.
I've seen the film, which I
Far
thought
better
was-
book than any
great.
movie adaptation.
But I
Sure.
had the same thought, like I Am Legend, in that in both cases, the person who thinks they're the last person on Earth in some way tries to cling to some stability, right? So like she has the calendar and the alarm clock that she keeps up consistently. In the film, they did that away because she said, I realize it doesn't matter. And if you think about it, it really doesn't matter. She's the only person left on Earth who doesn't have to care about the time or the date.
And I wondered, did you all wonder about that when she makes that comment about, well, what I do about time? And now it's handy to know when the seasons are going to change.
Yeah, I think you would want to know. I would.
Yeah.
And
she's
why is
still
it-
young enough that she enjoys birthdays. Like,
Yeah.
oh, like I finally made it to the milestone, even though there's no one here to celebrate with me.
Now I can marry
Like,
the psychopath.
yeah.
You know, unfortunately now that I've watched the movie, Mr. Loomis is now the Mr. Loomis of the film. So I have conflated And I really hate that. He's one of my favorite actors right now. And I wonder what his thoughts are regarding the film and making the choice that he did to join that.
Probably one of those, well, the check cleared kind of films, right?
Yeah.
I thought the cast was.
It was very well
The
done.
cast is
Well
amazing.
I love Margaret Robbie, love Chris Pine, love him.
Wow, there's only 3
Yeah.
actors in this.
3.
Well, there's pictures of like
There are
her brother,
pictures.
but yeah.
There's only 3 actors in it.
But other than the actors, I hated everything.
I feel
But
like
would you have hated it had you not read the book?
Yeah, I was gonna say I actually I saw the movie first a long time ago, a while ago, and so when I was reading the book, I just kept waiting for Caleb to show.
So, what did you think of the film when you saw it the first time, Jennifer?
I liked it, so I've been listening to you guys like an adult, like just bash it. And it wasn't like a lot of action or anything for sure, but I wasn't necessarily expecting that. With this kind of film, I mean, there's less action,
Yeah.
there's less people. I mean,
It's like The Road.
yes, exactly. And so I don't know, I liked it. I mean, for what it was, and like I said, I had really no idea that so many changes had taken place. So when I was reading the book this week, it was like, oh, okay, it was a big lesson. And so I understand, like I could see for sure, like, I mean, I'm one who always reads the books first. So I totally understand all those changes. That would be like really upsetting. But for me, I really like a lot of the symbolism and things like that, like the Christian symbolism and stuff like that in the film, just like the real kind of subtle ones.
Yeah, I don't hate the movie. I don't hate the book. I'm just looking at them, trying to look at them as interesting artifacts in and of themselves and what happens, because playing to an audience, Chris Pine, are you kidding? Gotta have something going on. Right? Sexing it up, right? And
Chris Pine being in bad young adult novel adaptations of movies. It's like his thing now.
what else has he been in?
He's in Wrinkle in Time.
Oh, that's right. Which isn't the best.
I don't think I would have had quite so much of a problem with the movie if the movie had had some level of tension. For me, the movie, there's this love triangle going on, but it never really ramped up to a level where it felt dangerous. Granted, there was where they were out hunting the turkey. All right, but it never really felt like there was any danger, right? There was never any threat.
I don't think I needed
I think
that.
that's what I
don't know
missed.
why. I don't think I need. I don't know why I didn't need that.
Because they make it all right on sex.
On sex.
Who gets the girl? Who gets to populate the next human race with her? That's what it's all relying on.
I think for me, I didn't really need that. Like, I mean, granted, I hadn't read the book when I saw it, but I don't think I needed it because it was like I accepted that so much had just transpired when I started the novel. So it was like, you know what I mean? For me, it was there. It was implied that it was there for me throughout the novel. It was like all this stuff is a byproduct of things that had already happened. So it's like, what more tension could you have than the end of the world, pretty much? So when you're
Everything else is a letdown, huh?
Well, to me, it was just like, you know what I mean? It's just innate. It's part of the book. Like, you wouldn't have it without all of that tension before.
Yes.
So I don't think I needed it for the film.
Is that tension? The tension that occurs in the novel is his turning on her, which that happens how far in?
It was
Pretty soon in.
No, it seemed like it went on a while before. Maybe I'm thinking maybe halfway through, but I could be wrong. I thought the book was genuinely scary. It had some genuinely scary scenes. Starting with, leading up to his attempt to rape her, especially the part where she's like at the piano playing, and she's the awareness, we've all probably had that feeling where you're like, you don't want your back to whatever it is behind you, right? Mm-hmm. And the way that he describes this in the book was very well done. It kind of, even just talking about it now, sends shivers down my spine, because you can kind of You really feel it, her fear when she's at the piano. And from that point, I guess that's why my expectation for the movie fell flat, because there's so much well done suspense here that kind of ramped up to this point where she was terrified.
But I don't like the suspense of the novel.
Well, I don't like that she was in jeopardy.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong. I don't like the situation that she was in, but I felt like it was well done as far as a piece of writing was concerned, and he used the suspense and tension very effectively to get the idea.
I was okay with that before that. Before, I just kept seeing all of this stuff over and over and over again in the news.
Because seeing all this
That's
stuff
true
makes
right
it
now.
even more real that it's not her life at stake. It's what he wants to do to her. Like that, the line in the book where she's like, he wants to chain me up like Pharaoh and leave me. That was terrifying. That's when it became so real to me.
The first time that I actually got, like, I started like worrying for her as the character was whenever he grabbed her arm and held it, and she accidentally hit him in the face, and he was like, "You shouldn't have done that."
Yeah.
And immediately, and I was like, "All right, so he's gonna be really creepy now, and he's gonna end up hurting her, like automatically, because that's just not something that you say to someone, especially if you're over there ripping their arm so they can't pull away, and you're tightening it as they try to pull away.
And this is the friggin' end of the world.
Yeah. And I'm like, so what if she accidentally hit you in the face? You wouldn't let her move, and you pulled her into you.
For me, the most unsettling parts would be when he would like act pleasant after those moments, after those real unsettling moments.
Making her feel like it never happened.
Gaslighting.
Yep. So typical of an abuser.
Well, we know.
Go ahead. I kind of struggled in the same way that you did, Dr. Stewart, just because I brought so much of my own baggage to that, you know, just stuff that I've been through in my life. And I loved the novel, but it was very hard for me to read because of that same thing. And like y'all were talking earlier about, you know, like, well, why didn't she just shoot him? She had plenty of opportunity. Because in reality, you're so manipulated that you can't.
And she's
you don't
young.
even think about that. Like,
She's young and naive.
that's not even a thought in her mind. Like, oh, I have 2 guns and I could probably do this. I'm a pretty good shot. But that's not, you know, she's not thinking that way because she's already so under his thumb.
But who's she gonna go talk to? Her mom? Like, there's nobody else for her to go seek advice from. There's nobody else for her to be like, is this normal? Like, she doesn't know what normal is except for what she saw in her family, which is very different than her situation now. Very different.
I don't know what to make of the following, though. So, it was when did any of you see the film 28 Days?
28 days.
28 days later? Or
Well, wasn't there 28 days and then 28 days later?
I don't know 28 days.
It's where the
zombie.
It's a zombie
on the
apocalypse.
Island.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I saw it, yeah.
Yeah. And what occurred to me as I watched that, and it was kind of the beginning of an awakening, is that in so many movies I've seen, it's about men behaving badly. Very, very, very badly. And that their impulses, they can't control their impulses, and they all of a sudden. There's a series on right now that's called. Purge. Has anybody seen that?
I haven't seen it.
I won't watch it.
I won't be able to see it.
Have you seen? Does anybody know what it's about?
Yeah. Oh, I know what it's about.
What's it about?
So isn't that whenever
It's
they
the one day a year that no laws apply. You can loot, you can murder, it doesn't matter, and it's supposed to get rid of crime throughout the world or wherever they're at.
Yeah, it's relying on this carnival-esque thing that Bakhtin talks about how inversion and letting everybody do what they want to for a little bit, kind of lets off the steam, takes the pressure out of the pressure cooker. That's what one of the things that he identified. But when I saw that, Rachel, when did that movie come out? Is it 28 days or is it 28 days later?
Oh, well, I found a movie called 28 Days, but it had Sandra Bullock in it. So
No, that's not it.
Let me look it up. 28 Days Later came out in 2003.
2003.
Ewan McGregor?
It
I don't remember who the
has,
lead was.
oh, it has Christopher Eccleston for all you Doctor Who fans.
Oh.
No, nobody. I don't know anybody else. Cillian Murphy, Naomi Harris, Brendan Gleeson, and Megan.
I know Brendan.
Oh, Brendan Gleeson.
Brendan
Man,
Gleeson. Yeah. So what I saw there, as I said, was men behaving very badly, and raping and pillaging is all that's on their minds. I don't know what to make of that. I don't know if it's an easy stereotype. Or what's going on back? Okay, I think the voices have calmed down. I don't know if it's an easy stereotype or what to make of it. Thoughts, anybody?
I'm sorry. I have lots of opinions on this. Sorry. Please tell me to shut up. I think it feeds into it's just in men's nature. Boys will be boys. They gotta do what they gotta do. It feeds into that.
And the novel feeds into it as well. This Z for Zachariah.
Yes. Absolutely.
It does.
I think in this book, though, there's some implication that he is insane.
Yes.
That he's mentally ill. This person is mentally ill.
Either that or like severe PTSD, but probably just crazy.
He's already killed
Yeah.
Edward.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was at Collin College a few years ago, the book in common was called The Dog Stars, and it's also post-apocalyptic, and it was the same thing as far as like there were a couple of like a band of like 2 or 3 wild men, and one of them had a necklace of like female body parts.
Of course.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I read that one.
What do we make of that? What did you say about it?
No, it's I read it and it's really good.
Is it really
I think, oh my god, what's his name? There's a professor here, has read it for American Lit. Dr. Gonzalez. Yeah.
What's it called again?
The
Dog Stars. By I think Peter Heller.
Oh, okay. I'll probably have to have y'all remind me of that. Like I said, so much time for extra reading, ever.
Yeah, no, I try to like squeeze like novels and short stories in between everything.
I'm reading 2 novels a week because I'm reading for my other class. Now, pretty soon they're going to coincide. They're going to parallel it. The Giver. Is that the only one? No, Watson's go to Birmingham, so I don't have to read it again. So I got a little respite coming up. So I'm reading 2 novels a week, and it's killing me. But I'm not sure what to say about the perpetuation of that kind of idea. Is it worse than perpetuating certain stereotypes about women, or I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. Of course, statistically, men are more violent than women, period.
And through history, men have raped and pillaged.
And the violence is very frequently
But is it like
perpetrated
the
upon women.
apocalypse is on? Let's go, right? It's not. I mean, I wouldn't think that like all of a sudden.
It's probably
Alex,
more along
guys.
the survivalist
Apocalypse, let's go, right?
Once you realize that,
Do that.
not as many people around or there's something going on, so the survivalist mode kicks in, and then you're doing whatever you can to survive, and it probably just it just goes on from there, and they get more and more violent and aggressive to where they don't trust anyone and they just kill everybody.
Well, and that happens to some degree in Walking Dead before what's his face.
This kind of ties in though too with one of the other reasons why I stopped Walking Dead. I saw Rick as one of the guys who wouldn't go there, right?
Yes.
He had a
moral
integrity,
compass
a foundation of integrity, a moral compass that wouldn't allow him to go there. And when they all went in and they proactively murdered this group of people, I said, okay, this show lost all, the characters lost integrity completely, and I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
And that was why I got off the ship, because I'm okay in a story where there's a balance, because I believe in reality you're gonna have some psychos,
Please
but you're
make
gonna
sure
have
it's
some
balanced.
good people, right?
Yeah.
Who just want to survive. And in doing so, recognize that you have to help others and build a community and create a network of, recreate community.
And one of the discouraging things about Walking Dead was that it was never going to happen. That every time they began to build a community, something destroyed it from outside and sometimes from inside. Rachel, what were you going to say? You got a look.
I have a look because it has nothing to do with this, but I've been listening to a podcast called Dirty John. It's a true crime podcast. And this girl kills this guy in a brutal way. And they're like, why did you do that like that? She's like, I just watched it on The Walking Dead one time. She did it totally in self-defense. But when they were like, she stabbed him in the face.
Okay.
And they were like, why did you do that? She's like, I watched The Walking Dead and you can only kill zombies by stabbing them in the head.
Interesting.
And I was like, oh my god. So the fact that y'all are talking about this, like, that's running in my mind. I'm like, I am never watching this show. It will destroy my brain, apparently.
It will make you a zombie.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's gonna make you stab people in the face.
Yeah.
We seldom see women portrayed that way, though, right?
Do what?
We seldom see women portrayed that way.
Very seldom. You see him taking vengeance or
Vengeance, but it's usually calculated, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Women can be
It's
very
not like
cold,
wanton
calculated.
violence.
Yeah.
Kirsty, what were you going to say?
It's not planned. Very
I said I was laughing so hard because my husband walked in to get the baby monitor right when you said men tend to be more violent than women, and he just gave you this really weird look, like, really? Because in our marriage, like, he's the real passive one and I'm the feisty one, and so like we're kind of, I guess, opposite of what we were talking about, and he was looking at me like, no.
Explain to him, will you? Yeah, it's violence that occurs against women, and the old husband kills the wife story. The wife she find her dead body, and who's suspected first? It's the husband, because statistically it's going to be the husband. And a few times the wife kills the husband. I've seen a lot of those strangers in a train, or on a train kind, where they, anyways. Well, I don't know what to make of that male stereotype. And I don't know if I want to go there or not. It bothers me, though. Ever since 28 Days, it opened that up. And I just see it time after time after time. When the rules get loosened up, when laws disappear, when they're put in dire circumstances, they turn to animals. That's how they're portrayed. And I don't know what to make of that.
I do feel like it's probably just an easy cop-out. People are going to watch it because it's violent and gory. And, statistically, yes, men are normally more, aggressive and everything. So they just...
I think that has something to do with testosterone.
Yeah. And they just continue to do it. It makes it more action-y and gives you more sympathy for other characters and it's dumb, but
But the
Going to
problem with
continue
that
to
is you're giving people an excuse.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're allowing them to say, "Oh, well, that's just in my nature.
Exactly.
It's inevitably what I'm gonna do,"
Mhm.
and it opens up. I mean, maybe I'm optimistic, but I like to think people aren't automatically at some point going to be bad. There's good people in the world. Not everybody's gonna want to partake in the purge.
Exactly.
You know, but I didn't like any of this for the same reason. I mean, I thought the book was well written. I enjoyed it, but
As much as you can enjoy a book like this. Yes.
yeah, I mean, I thought the writing. I'm with you. I thought the writing was well done. I listened to it on audiobook, and even my mom was with me at one point. She was like, "Oh, that's good writing. I like that writing." I was like, "It's an okay book." But
Yeah, O'Brien, are any of you familiar with The Rats of Nim? Yes.
Oh, I was gonna say, I looked up a little bit about the book, and he actually died before he finished it, and like his wife and daughter finished the book.
Right.
I read that too.
Oh. Whoa.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't either.
I'm wondering, like, at what point had he gotten to?
But I read that too. But I read that they had like all these notes.
That they knew where he
had
was
notes,
going.
and they knew where he was going with the plot.
But I still wouldn't want to be his wife or his daughter writing that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
When was it published?
77.
70, yeah, in the 70s. That's a whole different world. And also, the Anne of the 1970s, O'Brien's Anne, and the Anne of this film in 2015, we have different attitudes informing these Annes. The one of the 1970s is going to be more naive, is going to be more protected, is going to be more secluded, even though the 1970s is turning out to be a really, really crazy time. In this community, it would hold that she's going to be sheltered. In the 2000s film that we see with 2013 with her, she comes out of a different time. Even though they try to make it look like she's not, with the Southern accent and maybe it's trying to be set during that period, but it's still not the same Anne. And it can't be. It just can't be.
It was modern. She said she was watching a DVD.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't hear anything about cell phones or anything like that, but
I mean, if you're living out in the boonies, you're probably not going to really have a cell phone anyway.
That's
not
true.
going to really have a cell phone tower. Yeah.
that's true. I'm going to show you something that I kind of put together. Some of the things I picked up on, and we have so much more to talk about with this novel, but some of you have touched on it already, some of these things, and I just kind of wanted to bring them out. All right, so knowing what we know from the novel, in this image, can you guys actually see, Kirsty, can you actually see the PowerPoint? You can, okay.
Yes, ma'am, we can see it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, what's it like when I show a film clip or something like that?
We can see it. Yeah, we can see it. It's perfect.
Okay, very good.
There's a little bit of a lag, but not too bad.
Okay, very good. So now the gun is empty here, and she has just gone down to the filling station, and gas is coming out of the line, and she's jumping up and down and saying, "Hey, we've got fuel, we've got fuel." But we've read the novel, and we know that he's going to scope her. When I saw this, I thought immediately of the novel when he's getting ready to shoot her in the ankle, in the leg. And so my seeing that and having read the novel completely shaped the way I saw that. Now, Jennifer, I don't know if you can possibly remember clear back then, but do you remember what you thought when you saw him doing that?
I don't think it held as much weight, you know what I mean, without
knowing.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
my husband watched the movie with me last night, and we realized halfway through the movie that we had watched it before. And he was like, why are we watching this again? It was a horrible movie. And I was like, dude, be quiet.
It was horrible the first time.
But when he gets frustrated with me because like I pick out all the, fictional and literary elements of the movie all the time. But when he saw this specific scene that you're showing, he goes, that's foreshadowing. And he hasn't read the book. So,
but it's only it is foreshadowing for what happens to Caleb, but not but it's foreshadowing for what happens in the novel, for sure.
Right.
I kind of felt like that in retrospect and in terms of this discussion, I almost feel like they're playing a little bit of a trick on people who know the novel.
Yes.
Right? Trying to lead you into believing, oh, he's going to turn. This is what you think it is.
This is what, and when I saw that, because it is at the beginning, when I saw that happen, I thought, damn it. They did exactly what I was afraid that they were going to do. They turned him into the bad man, made a black man the bad man, because it's so easy to do. And I was really, really angry about that. And I hadn't seen the film, so I held my reservations on that.
Also the black man and the white girl, like that.
That whole
and him like
tension.
And then a white man shows up.
Yeah.
And then a white man shows up.
And
A white Southern man.
She naturally goes towards him, and then he kills for her. It's just too much.
It's really didn't want it. Just talking about like deconstructing it, it's just.
I watched this movie this
So
morning,
much of it was
and I was
questionable
like,
choices.
I cannot wait to get to class.
Well, you know what? It's this kind of film that makes things so interesting to talk about.
Well, to have the novel to comparison.
I've been preparing for this talk all day long, and I'm so glad to get all of your life. You've been preparing for this all your life. I even called my mom as soon as I finished, and I was like, I know you don't know what this movie's about, but I'm about to tell you because it's awful. It was so problematic, and I want to know, why did no one think to say, hey guys, maybe we shouldn't do this?
Exactly.
Like, maybe we shouldn't.
Who thought this was a good idea?
So why do we think that they did it this way, though? I mean, what if we were to put the shoe on the other foot, or step into somebody else's shoes, or whatever?
I think they stepped into shit. That's what I think.
Why? I mean, what is the message that they try to get across with this? I mean, they made him ultimately Mr. Loomis as a black man, a very nice man. He, ultimately he doesn't take advantage of her. He could have. She kind of gave herself to him, and he said no. Right?
Yeah, he says no. And they wake up together the next, and he has not touched her.
So, is this movie trying to? Clearly, it has its own agenda. So I'm just wondering, stepping outside of my thoughts about the movie itself, trying to understand where are the movie makers coming from by transforming it in this way? Clearly they changed the entire thrust of the
trajectory of the plot entirely.
Yes, completely changed, right? And it's about something.
And that's okay.
Something else entirely.
Yes.
The setup is the same, and other than that, everything else is different.
So I know we can't take the book out of our minds, but try for a minute to take the book out of our minds. It's still a problem.
If I would have never read that book, I would have watched that movie and still said, this is the stupidest movie I've ever seen in my life. It's just, like you said, what is the conflict here? That these two men want this girl, she's the last girl on earth, so it's a battle between these two guys. And he comes out on top. He gets the happy ending, but nobody else does.
She's just Cher. There's only 3 of you.
Well, he even says that to her.
Exactly.
He's like, if you want to basically mess around with Chris Pine, it's okay. I'm not going to stop you.
Yeah. And then he turns it around. He turns it around on him. Says when he tells the Chris Pine Caleb that, well, I told her to do whatever
whatever she had to do to keep you around
to help us build the
wheel.
The wheel.
Hard to
Well,
say, but-
you know, he is one of my favorite actors right now. And
This was by no means the worst movie I've ever seen.
No.
I just want to clarify, but it was very well acted. The actors did a fantastic job. I just felt like that, in light of the novel, was so different and so far outside the realm of what I expected seeing.
I felt especially when they were hunting the turkey, I kind of felt like they had taken the Loomis character from the book and split him into Loomis and Caleb. Because like Caleb's pretty creepy too.
Yes,
especially when he first shows up, right? Because I don't know about your initial thought, but and that's a good insight, by the way, kind of trying to split him in two. But my initial thought was, okay, well, so Chris Pine is going to be the psychopath, right? That comes on the scene, and then there's all this, you know, that Mr. Loomis becomes the protector instead of the aggressor, or the protagonist, or antagonist. He was the antagonist in the book.
yeah, I thought he was going to be. I thought the Caleb character was going to.
Maybe that was how they were going to turn it.
I thought that too, but then I remembered you specifically saying that they take a character, turn him into a black man, then he becomes the bad guy. So I knew the whole time. I was like, it's never going to get better for him.
Mm-mm. All right, so this is when he first gets there. That's some bad hair that he's got going on. But this is when he first gets there, and he's jumped into the water, the bad water. Is that what I call it? No, I don't think I have it listed. Bad water. He's jumped into the bad water, and he's just found out. She shouted out to him, "Get out! Things are dead in there." And he gets sick immediately. I don't know how long it takes for.
It takes him until it doesn't actually take him that long. It's like a couple of hours, I think. Like by the end of the night, he's like in the tent and not coming out.
Yeah, I was asking. I wonder how long it does take for radiation sickness. Go ahead. We've got.
I think it depends on like the amount.
The amount, and he's got a high amount.
Yeah, he got like 300.
At least 300.
Because he was in there for like 10 minutes, and even above the water, it was 180.
Radiation poisoning happens 5 to 6 hours after initial exposure.
Crap.
Tremors and convulsions begin. Eventually, coma and death are inevitable within 3 days.
Well, you know, here's the deal. All of them are going to die. And they're all going to die of radiation poisoning. Period. It's going to happen. There's no getting away from it. Caleb has been, he's been infected by radiation. He says that he's already gone through all of that. And then Mr. Loomis does. It's a death sentence, pretty much. It will eventually, whether it's cancer that takes a long time or whether it's just down the road, they're all going to die as a result of radiation. So that we've got the water. I'm working towards water here. When we first meet Caleb, then he wants a glass of water. And as I indicate here, he asks for a lot more than that as it progresses. You know, he just looks creepy. He's got that Southern Deliverance look. Burt Reynolds' Deliverance, you know, squeal like a pig thing. Yeah. Doesn't he have that look about him?
Yeah, when he first came on the scene, I thought, okay, he's the psycho.
He's a sickie, yeah. And so they use the church to build the water wheel. And they take it apart, and it's pretty interesting, you know, the things that are going on here. You've got here's the cross that's left, very pointed it's very
It's kind of
evident.
surprising that they put that in the movie, to be honest. Especially, I feel like, you know, Anne being as religious as she is, it's kind of
Well,
sacrilege.
what are their choices?
Yeah.
After they tore down the church, then she went wild with Chris Pine.
She lost her religion. She didn't.
You know,
She didn't lose her religion, but she lost her religion.
I thought it was symbolic of like when he tells her like, what else are we supposed to do? We gotta do what we gotta do to survive. And then when she does that, at that point she's just that former hold on her, the church, her dad's religion has been literally deconstructed and torn down.
And she helped.
And yeah, and she was willing to do it. She was willing to do it early on though. She didn't really have a problem. She told him once, go ahead and tear it down. He's like, oh, I don't want to make you uncomfortable.
I don't think she meant it though. She semi-meant it. Was that after? That was after they spent the night together, that Mr. Loomis and she spent the night together. She comes back and it says, okay, go ahead. Because she's saying that, all right, this Mr. Loomis, I can live with this. I can live with him. I can do this. And how weird that we just keep calling him Mr. Loomis. And, you know,
I think they only mentioned his name like once or twice.
She calls him Mr. Loomis throughout the book.
Yes.
And then in the movie, she calls him John.
Oh, that's right. That's right. She
Probably
does.
goes along with how, like,
The authoritarian
the
here
authority
for
and
Mr. Loomis.
patriarchy. Because
It's a
that's a
southern
sign
thing.
of respect.
Yeah.
And definitely yes, with southern. Bless you.
So they're using this to, and you know, I have to agree that take the church. I want electricity, please. I want a deep freeze. I want lights, please.
Okay.
I think that would have, man, I don't know what I would do to have electricity.
I do a lot of things to get them.
I'd do a lot of things to have electricity.
Makes your life so much easier.
Yeah.
But she's also she's also survived without it for a year.
Yes, but she's having a rough time of it. She's having a rough time of it. They're not. Is it the novel that she says she almost starved?
That's the movie.
That's the movie. Okay, so she almost starved that first winter. And part of it's because she didn't plan accordingly, but one can't predict obviously, in our world, one can't predict the weather. And so, talk about water inundated. All right. And then this is after they're carrying the materials to the waterfall, and I saw these 3 crosses, which is, I immediately thought, okay, that's Christ and the 2 thieves, because it was 3 crosses.
Yeah, it's an interesting observation. I also thought too that the church, rather than tearing it down, although I think there is some importance to the tearing down of the church to the character and in the movie. I also think it was a symbol of God providing for this situation.
Well, that's what John Loomis says.
Right. And that's
gave
what
it
they
to us.
said. And then this kind of reinforces that concept for me, if it was intentional. It's hard to say.
You know, what we're doing here is and this is something, I don't know how Dr. Duchovny teaches, I've never seen his class, but we're taking these scenes and looking at them, this mise en scène, and looking at it and see what it contains and what it tells us about the film. And some pretty interesting things happen with it. Is that what he talks about?
That and just kind of what I picked up on in this film. It doesn't have anything really to do with this, but just like Chris Pine and the fact that he's a big name actor, it was really hard for me to see him as this creepy guy because all I saw was
Chris Pine.
And like I thought of Star Trek and like how he's like this really like great guy in Star Trek, and then to watch him in this was very different. So we talked about that too, how that kind of plays a role in how you interpret a film.
See, and I'm not that, Chris Pine doesn't, I know who he is and I recognize him, but I don't think of him. I forgot that he played in Star Trek.
Yeah, so that's how I saw him, was he's just this nice guy. And then I think of him in real life like that too, even though I have no idea.
I know, we always do that.
Right, who he is as a person, but I'm just like, oh yeah, he's this great guy. Like, I know him. But yeah.
Well, with this scene, then we've got the electric lines, which are useless, and the three of them, the three electric poles, kind of they're irrelevant. Now they in the film they use those electric cords in order to run the electricity back up to the house from the waterfall, from the generator. And here they are, teamwork, putting this all together. Now they've taken the church down together, and they're putting this water wheel together because all three of them are there. Caleb is in the suit. He's in the suit down here, and the two of them are working in conjunction. So it's all three of them working towards a common goal of getting electricity again, made from the remnants of the church.
I thought it was interesting that Caleb was always the one in the suit. Mr. Loomis was never in the suit again after he took it off upon arriving in the valley. Especially after he, like, at one point told her, don't touch the suit, don't look at the suit does not exist for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was just a stark contrast.
Yes, very stark. Okay, so now they've come home from getting things all built. They've had a nice dinner, they've drank wine, they're a little tipsy, and so they go out for a swim. And there we have the three of them together at this late night swim. And it's kind of a game of spin the bottle, because they toss out the bottle and she goes out to get it. And it's then when Loomis he's always seen the two of them going together, coming together. And he's fighting his jealousy not very well. But this is kind of when it really opens up. So back to the water. Water is all over the place in this film.
Which is, pretty understandable.
Oh, yeah.
Water is such a
Yeah.
key thing for survival.
And if you look at it, they're pitchers of water. She's, it's just part of the landscape of this film, of the texture. So here they are in the bedroom. This is Loomis and Anne. And now they've already spent the night together with no sex. It was just, he has said to her that things will change if we do that. And so they don't at first. And he passes out on the bed and she's shoving him because she wants to make love, or at least try something. But he's passed out. She walks out and Chris Pine is in the bathroom showering in the water, and she stops at the door, and there he is.
I thought it was interesting that she initiated all the sexual contact.
Every bit of it. What do y'all think about it? Rachel's going over.
I just hated everything about this movie. I don't know how many times I could say it. I thought she does that immediately after she's expressed that she cares for Mr. Loomis, and she has expressed that she wants to be with him. When he even says that, oh, hey, you can go do your thing with Chris Pine, she's like, no, I care about you. He's just said, I love you. And then all of a sudden she's just like, oh, none of that matters. I'm just going to go make sweet, sweet love to Chris Pine in here on the bathroom sink. Like, it just seemed so... All of these characters, it's like they had no motivation for anything except just like this carnal, animalistic...
Well, that's what we're talking about, going back to that notion of when the rules go away.
It's just everybody's nature. everybody's
Free
gonna
for all.
wanna just do what they wanna do. And nobody's gonna think twice about it. Also, I really hated that she just the next day was just gonna be like, oh, sorry, last night was just so confusing for me, and expect him to just be like, oh, it's cool. Like, they're just all the characters in this were just.
What do you think that she's taken, that she's the one who's become, she's initiating the sexual contact? Is there some agency in that?
I think there would have been more agency if she would have chosen. She would have had the ability to choose.
She doesn't choose?
She just takes what she can get. She takes what's available.
What's not passed out?
Yeah.
Yeah, as you recall, I had him pictured, I had the words passed out.
I don't know that it's that meaningful, but I observed, I'm pretty sure that Chris Pine's, that Chris Pine's character did not drink.
No, he didn't.
He didn't drink any alcohol with them.
I didn't even notice that. That's just another thing I hate about this movie.
What do you make of that? Not drinking.
I felt like there was maybe something in it because they made the reference that he had been in the military previously. He was wearing a military hat. I got the sense that, I don't know, maybe there was something in his past. He didn't have any interest in any of the alcohol when they were drinking. He didn't touch it.
Could have also just been because he wanted to be creepy.
Could be just being creepy. I don't know, but just something I picked up. I wasn't sure that it was
I've got
important.
quite a few military buddies, and they're like, pretty much everyone is just drunk a lot. Very.
Well, and there they end up together. Passed out?
Clearly
not passed out. So now they're putting the water wheel, doing the final, putting it together, the final part of it. And that's Caleb in the suit, and that's Loomis, and he has just had a close call. It's where Loomis is trying to haul him back up, and he gets back up, and then he undoes the rope from whatever was holding him, and Caleb slips again. And then this is where we see him making that decision. What am I going to do? Is this it? Am I going to do it now? Is this it? And that look on his face, I thought was pretty revealing.
That should be next to the definition of internal conflict.
Really?
I'm just like, yeah.
And so there he is. Yeah, really. On the edge.
I'm wondering about Caleb being at the top of the waterfall, though, because if, let's say Loomis let go of the rope, which we assume he did. Caleb.
Oh, I think he pushed him. I think he got back up, and I think he that was that.
Any way you look at it, Caleb's in the water. The suit's probably going to fill up with water, but Loomis can't really leave him there because eventually Anne will find him. But in order to get him out of the water, he'd have to get radiation all over him.
Suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
That's where it ran out. Well, it ran out in several places, but that's a very clear problem.
What? Totally didn't run out. I did everything.
I know.
It's on the TV. It must be true.
It must be true. So there he is on the edge. Then we have Anne on the edge, looking at the glass of water. I don't know what book that is. Think it's a Bible?
Yeah.
Is that or a book of poems?
Am I the only person who was like, now you gotta clean that up, you idiot?
Yes, I was like, she's gonna break that glass. Why is she gonna break that glass?
All I could think of was my cats and the way they do,
Yes.
shoving stuff off.
It didn't sound like it broke though.
It
No,
didn't.
it didn't.
It
No, it
didn't.
like
She
that.
carries it out later. And it doesn't have very much water in it. So there it is. She's putting the book up to it, going.
Sometimes you're just really bored and you want to see what happens.
Gone. Just like Caleb. And there's that glass of water. Pretty obvious. In case we didn't get it, and I'm not gonna show you him pushing him off, but here's Anne helping us out a little bit, giving us some clues. So now she sees that they have electricity. She hears the refrigerator click on and looks, and the light comes on, and there's this look of, they did it. And she goes around turning the lights on, and then she goes out and she goes to back to the church, which is this open church now. And Caleb had said something about we need to cover the piano or the organ, and they didn't cover it with a tarp, and they didn't, I guess. And so there she is. She's back in the church. It's completely open and exposed. The shape of it's still there. Maybe God's still there. Who knows?
So why wasn't she at the water wheel with them whenever they had been together the entire time anyway? Why did she stay at home with enough time to push a glass off the end of the table whenever the guys were very obviously finishing up something that she was highly invested in herself?
Bad editing. Bad storytelling. Bad story.
Man's work.
Nah, she's been involved in man's work the whole time.
I'm assuming this probably convinced her not to, just so we could push them off. So it's done.
And then she has a new church, and that's the barn. Loomis has moved the organ into the barn, and it even has a couple of pews set up right there. Got your sun coming in, shining in.
That nice little cross there in the middle.
Where's the cross? I didn't see
The
it.
beams.
The beams. And then
Oh,
the
well,
rock.
crap. How did I not see that?
That's like the first thing my eyes looked at, and I was like, ah.
That, okay. So, yeah, that's her new church. And in walks Loomis. And she sees him in the novel now. She's at the piano and he walks in behind her, and it's discomforting. Here, we don't, that's not what has happened. She looks behind and she changes the music. And there he is, sitting on a pew as though he's praying. And that we have this, and this is basically the last scene of it all. What do you think about that end? Are they all going to do something? Is this a new life?
I think eventually he tells her what he did because he told her that he
killed her
brother. So, like, I think, especially if you're the only two people left in the world, like, that comes out eventually. Caleb's body can't stay buried forever. Like,
You don't think she knows already?
I feel like she probably does.
I mean, she probably does. I don't think she bought the lie. She's not stupid, regardless of some of the things we saw. But
She doesn't seem too torn up about it.
No, she doesn't, does she?
Yeah, and she's just
taking whatever's not passed out or not falling off the cliff.
Can you tell that I did not like this?
Why don't you tell us how you really feel?
Wait, how do you feel?
I hated it. Okay, I'm sorry. I have to
movie,
say
man.
it.
I'm wondering if she's gonna be pregnant with Caleb's child.
Well,
We'll never know.
If he's highly irradiated, though.
Oh, that's
You
true.
might not sterilize that.
or if
Maybe
not,
child.
childbirth defects.
It's been 20 hours.
Yes. So, do you think she's sold out, kind of?
I think she's just taking what she can get so she can have a companion. I think she, as much as, even in the book, she was fine getting along by herself. Humans are pretty social creatures. You're not going to want to have to spend the rest of your life by yourself.
I think you asked about what's the agenda of this movie. I think one thing this movie makes you question is, what are humans willing to do to make themselves comfortable and get what they want? Like, she's willing to, despite the fact that she clearly has feelings for Loomis and he said he loves her, she's willing to just go do what she wants. He's willing to kill to have her to himself. And then she's willing to accept that and settle down with him because it's uncomfortable to live alone. We all want.
And she has electricity.
Yeah, and now she has electricity, so it just, none of the characters have any, I didn't think they had any moral compass. They were just doing whatever they needed to do, manipulating the situation however they needed to in order to survive. I mean, he even used that as an excuse when he told, what's his name, Caleb, after they slept together, he's like, I told her to do whatever to keep you here. Like, he says it lying, but again, it still leaves that question of, like, what are human beings willing to do to make themselves comfortable? What are we willing to ignore and overlook or completely immoral?
Yes, because it's kind of the crux at the end when she opens that refrigerator and she's got electricity and she's got lights. That's when she visits the old church, and then she goes to the new church. Is that right? No, that's not right. Yes, no.
He goes to the old church. After he pushes her off, he goes back and looks, and then that's when the piano shows up and the pews show up.
Okay. When that's the very last scene, right there that we're seeing. So a sellout? I don't know. Does it matter? They're the last two people on Earth, for all practical purposes.
It's not like she can really, say anything. If he's willing to push him off, he may kill her, and at least this way she's alive.
Well, and that goes back to the violence that we see in the novel as to what he's capable of doing. He killed the brother, and I watched it twice. The second time it was fast forward, and because I was picking up the images that I wanted to get out of it. And he's very, very upset when he sees that it was the brother that he killed. But it's kind of like the dog in the novel about, why is it we just can't handle it when animals die?
Because animals are too good for us.
I know. And so that, we get he jumps into the dog jumps into the water, and we're giving that moment of but I wouldn't have to, I don't know how it's put in the novel that
I killed him, but I didn't shoot him.
Yes, yeah.
He just made him suffer.
And that he's dead by nightfall. And the thought that she was going to kill the dog, and then didn't, because the dog, as it turned out, didn't need to. because the dog jumped into the water right at that time. But it's kind of like that scene in some ways that he's pushed Caleb off the cliff, and what's happened to drive the dog into the water and for these horrible things to unfold. So I see that. We know the dangerous side he has. He's capable of a lot of things. Now, I don't know. Was it a horrible thing for him to shoot the boy?
Or was it a mercy?
I think it was, I sensed that it was completely mercy.
He was like, the boy was already sick by the time he got to me.
Yes.
There's only one mix of both. I mean, there's definitely that survival need of.
And he's saying he's in my wagon. He's in my wagon.
He's gonna die either way. So either he eats some of my food for the next few days and then dies, or
and throws it up.
His misery. Yeah, and throws it up exactly. Or I essentially, I hate to use the phrase, but put him out of his misery, and it's like a win-win, I guess, as sick as it sounds.
But which is what it is supposed to sound like that on these really difficult choices. Caleb's creepy. I don't think there's any getting around it. I think too that he brought bad stuff with him.
Bad juju.
Mm-hmm.
Well, our first introduction to him was him stealing from them initially,
Mm-hmm.
so I think he was set up to be that way.
Yeah, and he's coming in with those overalls and dirty, and when Loomis gets there, his hair's crazy, but that's he's been in that suit forevermore for a year. Yeah, I think that's the end of the show, my slideshow, which was pretty well put together, I think, to illustrate what I wanted to get across about some of the actually, there's some objective correlatives in there. Objective correlatives are objects or series of events that. Oh, quit smiling, Shay. I saw you looking adoringly at your child. So, what was I saying?
Objective correlatives.
It's a series of events. An object or a series of objects or a series of events that demonstrate a character's emotional standing. So when you read The Giver for our next meeting, how many of you've read The Giver?
I have.
It has been a very long time. It's been like 7th or 8th grade.
I actually teach it with my students. So I've read it many times.
Yeah,
I've read it a couple
you don't have
times.
to actually read it, do you, Jennifer?
No, I think this one I've got for sure.
Have you seen the movie yet?
Oh yes, I love the movie personally. I'm a huge Jeff Bridges fan, so I'm just pretty stoked about that.
Oh, I am too. I'm not crazy about Meryl Streep, but
I'm not
but I have not.
Everyone else is.
I honestly think she's not a very good actress.
That's so funny. I don't think I've ever met anybody else who shares that.
Yeah, I've seen, and some things she's really amazing, but some things she's really awful.
Yeah, I felt like her role specifically in The Giver could have been played by anybody else.
Oh, all right. So I haven't seen The Giver yet. I've got a new experience coming my way. And when the episode with the sled at the end of the novel, when he's going down the hill.
I've never understood that.
Have you read the other? I'm sorry.
I read some of it.
Have you
I read
the
some
others?
of it. Mm-hmm. I read the next two.
How many are there?
There's
Four.
I've only ever read the first one too.
I knew that there was like a second, and I thought there may have been a third, but I didn't know there's 4.
Something Blue is
Gathering
the second
Blue.
one. Gathering Blue is the second one. And that's the reveal that Jonas lives. And then in the third one is Jonas, I think, right? Who's read the third one? I read it. I don't remember anything about it because I was so pissed that Lowry did that. She took choice away from us as to what happens to Jonas in the end. But that sled is an objective correlative, that it is indicative of his emotional, where he is emotionally.
Right, which a lot of objects are in The Giver, yeah.
Yes.
Right, specifically.
So,
there are a lot
it
of
reveals.
differences in the movie, so I'm interested to hear your.
Okay, yeah. I don't know if I'm going to read it again. I've read it, God, I don't know how many times.
I might watch it before I reread it since it's been so long since I've read it. I don't really remember much about it. So I might watch it.
I've written on it, so I've got an article out on it. So I've read it pretty carefully, and I teach it frequently. Not because I like it, Jennifer, but because it's an interesting book to teach.
I agree completely. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to it's really hard to teach a book that's just really good, and you say, wow, that's really good. And then what do you say? So I like the ones that have several issues. Well, I seem to have found it with Z for Zachariah, didn't I?
And that movie.
And that movie.
I'm always so interested when like instructors put like syllabi together. I always want to know like which ones do you honestly not like and which ones do you love that you just want to teach. I'm always so curious about that. I'm surprised at the ones I find out they don't like.
Like what? Are you surprised at me for The Giver?
Kind of, yeah. But I'm also I can't even think of the example off the top of my head. I feel so bad. But I'm in Dr. Hayes' class as well, and I just remember something kind of coming up. I don't know if it was Middlemarch or something else, but it was something I was like, oh, like you don't like this, but it's on his list.
That makes sense, yeah.
Which is totally true, because I mean, I'm a teacher and I've definitely and certainly taught things I'm not a fan of. But,
yeah, I don't.
So I understand that, but I'm just intrigued by what.
I don't teach Charlotte's Web because it's a pretty decent book. There's some things going on in it, but what am I going to say about it? Not much. So I like to pick the ones that we can reveal some things about it, them ideologically that might not be evident at first. And so that's what happens with The Giver. Now I picked, but I picked that without watching the film. And I picked also Z for Zachariah without watching the film. And Cinderella, I have not watched that film. I have now watched the film Wrinkle in Time.
The new one?
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, my family.
I didn't actually enjoy the book very much though either.
I loved it.
Yeah, the Oprah film, she's so big. She's just this great big thing. Until she comes down to size. Anyway, we have a lot to talk about with that one when it comes up. But and I'm just now listening to it, the novel again, although I've taught it in the past.
You made a passing reference. I guess you must have been referring to Shakespeare, but when you mentioned something wicked this way comes, I thought I'd suggest that we read something wicked this way comes.
Oh, I love that.
Halloween's coming up.
I love that, but it's not kids.
Not kids, but it's the Halloween Tree too. It's another one, Ray Bradbury, which is more current kid stuff. And there's an animated adaptation of that too.
Okay.
If you do it again in the fall, you should do Halloween Tree for.
Well, I've thought about a lot of movies that I could have done.
I'm sure
there's
a long list.
It took me a really long time to come up with this list. It really did. I sat on it for way longer than I should have. They were just nagging me at the bookstore like something like, and I think I got some emails from students maybe saying, were you going to give us that list anytime soon? No, I'm still working on it. I don't know what to do. But it turned out kind of good, didn't it? So far.
Yeah.
I've been, and I just can't wait to see the sumptuousness of Cinderella.
The costumes.
Mm-hmm.
Gorgeous.
I've been hesitant to watch Cinderella.
Have you? That one in particular?
Well,
Because
no,
to
just like
Brandon,
any of the new adaptations of the movies I grew up on, I'm always hesitant to watch just because I don't want them ruined.
well, and then I thought also, what's the one with Jolie?
Maleficent.
Maleficent.
Oh, I love
that
That was good.
Oh,
Yeah,
one of my favorite movies.
I think that was still
That was
pretty
a good
expensive.
movie.
I think that was still kind of expensive on.
Have you seen it?
Uh-uh.
Oh, you should
Oh,
watch
you
it.
need to.
It's really good. Very, very good. I've watched it like 10 or 20 times with my roommates.
Well,
and-
that's it?
Well, a lot of people hadn't watched it with me, so
Okay.
I like would watch it with everybody.
Okay.
So I'm like, I don't mind rewatching it.
Yeah. Well, and one I thought very, very much about doing was Little Mermaid, because that whole Ursula scantily dressed Ariel, what's his face?
Aren't they doing a live
No, the
action?
dad. Trident holding that damn fork. Trident.
Trident.
Yes, Trident holding Trident, and Ursula with her octopus lower body and how weird that is, and the eels and all those phallic symbols all over the place, and the whole notion of falling in love with one kiss. Oh no, it's got to be really in love. And that love at first sight, and 3 days to do it. Just
With no voice.
No, just no.
yeah. And then in the
You took away a siren's
and
voice.
in Hans Christian Andersen's version, she actually cuts the tongue out, and when
And
she
doesn't
gets
she doesn't make it, right? In the
no,
original?
she doesn't.
I didn't think so. She turns into
She turns into sea foam. And when she walks, when she gets feet, every step is like walking on knives. So it's so very painful. So in both of them, they give up their voices. And just another woman not talking. Well, a long tradition of women not talking. Put it that way. And so I thought about that one as well. That
Ariel should have read the contract better, or actually read it.
or read it. True word. Word. Yeah. So those are some of the things that I was going through as I was making my decisions. What would have you liked to have seen?
On the sofa?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Anybody? What film? What adaptation would have you liked to have seen?
Divergent.
I was thinking
Others?
I like it. She added in Ferdinand.
I did too. I was actually excited when I saw that. My kids are obsessed with it, so I read the whole thing when you posted it today, real quickly, because I had
already. Oh, good.
And it was really, I liked the book. It was so sweet.
Oh, I love the book. I love it. And, we'll talk about civil disobedience and resistance and that kind of thing with it.
Oh,
I love this one.
Adaptation I just recently saw was the Peter Rabbit, the film they made of
How
Peter
was the
Rabbit.
movie?
Well, I haven't finished it yet. I started it and then I'm a grandma and I fell asleep in the middle of it, so I haven't finished it. But so far, it's interesting because then I reread the original story. And I just missed a lot of, I haven't read it since I was a kid. It's reading as an adult. I read it with one of my students.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting themes.
Well, and one of the things about Peter Rabbit, we get that lesson about him, or supposedly that, he's been a very bad rabbit, but he gets to eat all the good stuff. He gets to run around without those stupid clothes. Rabbits don't belong in clothes. Although I saw a video of a prairie dog in
The one in the little dress.
yes, it lost its mother, and so humans brought it up. It has lots of clothes that it wears, different outfits. Anyways, what was I saying? I don't know. What was I saying?
Peter Rabbit.
Peter Rabbit, yeah. So he gets to have all kinds of fun. The girls stay at home and behave, and he gets to have an adventure. So that frequently gets.
There's a kids cartoon that's Peter Rabbit, and because I nannied for kids for a few years, they actually include a female character that gets to run around with Peter Rabbit.
Oh, interesting. That's very interesting.
I think an adaptation I actually would have liked would have been Jungle Book.
You think?
That would have been a good one.
Oh, I don't know. That's so colonizing. Well, it would have been good for us to talk about.
Problematic.
So problematic.
Talk about.
So much to talk about. Yes.
That movie is really good.
And Where the Wild Things Are was an option.
Still need to watch it.
Which one would have? Yeah, I do too. I guess. Which one would have you gotten rid of in this class so far? Secret Garden.
I like.
Yeah, that's my favorite. Secret Garden.
Let me actually go look. I don't actually remember.
I thought The Wizard of Oz was pretty dull.
Yeah, I actually did not a fan of The Wizard of Oz.
Of all the books we read, I think The Wizard of Oz was my least favorite. But I really enjoyed Wicked.
Yeah, I love Wicked.
It was interesting to
have that contrast.
Have the contrast. Yeah. I enjoyed Secret Garden. Surprisingly, I mean, it wasn't
I did
something
actually
that I would
enjoy
normally
The
pick
Secret
up.
Garden. I did not think I was gonna like it. But
It's so beautiful.
There.
Yeah.
It's
There was
so
really
beautiful.
a lot to the book.
Mm-hmm.
And
My favorite is Zell, and
Oh, I love Zell.
Zell was really good.
Zell was well done.
Okay.
I love Zell. That's like definitely in my top
I also thought about doing Donkey Skin, which is a weird one. It's a type of Cinderella story, but it's also the tale type is not exactly it's the one where the father got the king and queen, they have a child they pretty much ignore. She ends up being played by the adult child ends up being played by Catherine Deneuve, who's stunning, and it's French, which makes sense because Perrault is the one who came up with the story. Let me see. But the mother dies, and on her deathbed, she makes her husband promise that he will not marry anyone unless she is as beautiful as the mother. And the only woman available who is as beautiful as the mother is, guess who?
Oh, the
daughter.
The daughter.
Talk about this.
Yeah. And she goes through all kinds of machinations to get away from, what's it called? I guess it's called Donkey Skin.
I wish this would have me. I like that.
Yeah, I remember that one now. I think I read it in camp. Yeah, maybe it was your class.
Probably.
It was kind of creepy.
Oh. What's this?
Rachel.
Oh, nurse.
Look at you.
I love her.
Okay, that sounds interesting. She escapes, right? The king has a donkey that defecates jewels and gold. And she escapes by
Killing and skinning him?
she has the father do that, and then she takes the skin and escapes that way. Because you cannot recognize her, right?
Of course.
She looks exactly like a donkey.
So clever.
So this is the craziest film. It has subtitles. So this is after she's escaped, and she's going to the village where she's going to live, and where she will meet the prince, who's going to, save her.
Are people not just freaking out? There's a chick rodeo that donkey skin just right over her.
I think there is
Some kind of. Now she's.
Un gâteau pour le prince. Mon livre.
She's got lots of magic stuff.
Le savarin aux pommes, le chenonceau au rang, le délice à la noix, la galette des rois, non. La tarte aux abricots, le soufflé aux pruneaux, le beignet de compote, le biscuit de Charlotte, non. Ah, le cake d'amour. Ma robe couleur de soleil.
She asked her father to keep putting her off. She says, I'll say yes if you do this. And one of the things, she had 3 different dresses, one of the sun. You ready for it? It sounds like love.
Préparez votre pâte dans une jatte plate et sans plus de discours, allumez votre.
That's not my best dress ever. I'm fixing to make. I love it.
Well, it's very handy that she does because the prince, I believe, comes to the window here in a moment.
Prenez de la farine, versez dans la terrine, 4 mains bien pesées autour d'un puits creusé. Choisissez 4 frais, qu'ils soient du matin frais, car à plus de 20
She's got her sleeves in.
It's very impractical. First, she's wearing a donkey, so
What's she doing? Hold on.
No, she did it. That's what makes it love secret, you know? I love when you're doing the bread.
de sucre passez
Oh, it's a love cake.
et vous amalgamez une main de beurre fin, un souffle de levain,
Her sleeves are even drink. It's all over the time. Lately, this has been a long shirt.
et un soupçon de sel. Il est temps à présent.
This, I think, was made in the 70s.
On dit que vous brassez,
And then slips the ring in. In some versions of Donkey Skin, the only person who can, the king will marry is whoever can finger will take the ring. And so that's the ring, I think,
Laissez-le plat
that she was supposed to marry her father, her mother's ring.
et laissez cuire une
Yeah, right.
Nice even bake.
And off we go. Okay, so you do need to see this one. This is the prince.
Oh my.
It looks like the Red Power Ranger.
L'amour se cache dans le cœur comme un voleur et secrètement organise son malheur comme un verre dans une cerise au souvenir de son bonheur. La 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 la.
Is that a calla lily?
Tu t'ennuies, cher Seigneur. Moi? Je ne m'ennuie jamais, la rose. Comment s'ennuyer dans un monde où il y a tant à faire, à découvrir, à comprendre? Tu chantais l'amour. Le cherches-tu? Évidemment, je le cherche. Comme tout le monde. Alors continue ton chemin. C'est une question de confiance. Merci, la rose.
Merci.
The learning struggles make it more effective.
Sparkling house.
I'm still aware of
Peek into the window, you little peeping Tom.
color.
Horse scoop?
No, I'm a mime.
Sci-fi.
Yeah, there's all kinds of, it feels like a 70s movie. It feels like an LSD induced.
So I was going to say, just like one acid tabulator skipping through the woods talking
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like Alice in Wonderland, but like.
Yeah.
As in, close to the house on the half side, but on this side, we're going to totally be a feeding town.
Amour, amour, je t'aime tant, je t'aime tant. Pourquoi frappes-tu à ma porte de la sorte? J'ai attendu que tu m'apportes ce bonheur depuis tant de temps.
I see you, peeping Tom. Peeping Prince.
Peeping a prince doesn't make it any less creepy.
That's right.
The love moment. It's the traffic.
Do you know that Lady Gaga's getting married?
What?
Yes. Oh, it looks like all of it's there if you want to watch it. Now, the novel is really, yeah, it's Perrault's fairy tale, but then it's also a novel by, it's called Deerskin, and it's by McKinney. What's her name? Robin McKinley. I don't know. She's written a lot of fantasy novels, and it's very, very dark and very dark. So kind of like Zell is dark.
You got to quit saying books in here. I have so many books written in the margins in my little notebook. It's ridiculous. Like every page has got a couple of either movies or books.
Oh well, a lifetime of happy viewing and reading. Yeah, I had students who actually they couldn't read Deerskin because of the content, because of the father-daughter relationship, and the near rape that occurs. Have we been having fun?
I love this class.
Same.
How can you get better than to read novels and watch movies? Seriously, I feel like I'm cheating.
Favorite genres, like.
I feel like I'm cheating. Last night, it was time for me to watch Z for Zachariah. And so I make jewelry, and so I was watching it, and I was making jewelry because I could do both at the same time. So I got to do two things I liked a lot. It's like ideal.
Only all life could be that simple.
Really.
No
really.
kidding.
No kidding. So closing thoughts for this evening. It's been, wow. I've just, when I will say when I finished watching the film last night, I just kind of walked away from it and I felt a little bit desolate. I felt like I knew what happened. I don't know. I don't. It was an odd reaction that I had to the film, and I had a very visceral reaction to the novel because of current circumstances. And I don't know if anybody else experienced that except for Rachel.
I'm with you. If I'm the only one, my final thoughts were I hated that movie. That's all.
Well, I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it, and I didn't hate the novel either. They created some.
It did make me, both of them made me very uncomfortable. So much so that, like, after we watched Z for Zachariah, we watched Parks and Rec for about an hour after that, just to kind of.
To wash it away?
Yeah.
To wash it away a little bit.
Yeah. Just to not think about that.
Yeah.
Because we watched it, like, on Sunday evening, right before we went to bed, and I was like, I can't go to sleep having just watched this. Like, I need something else.
Have any of you read Rats of Nim or watched it?
Not in a long time.
I read it a long time ago, yep. Like 6th grade or something
That's
like
also
that.
by O'Brien.
Yes.
That's also by the same guy that wrote Z for Zachariah. And a really, really interesting novel, and there we go.
I'm like, I told her to write it up on YouTube too, so.
Yeah, Rats of Nim, that's a fascinating novel and very pointed and political in many ways. Not something that kids would probably pick up on, but yeah, experimentation, scientific experimentation. Rats, Nim. Yes. So, are you looking forward to next week? So Wednesday, anytime Wednesday, I don't care what time you get it in. Because I'm probably not gonna start it until Thursday. Then I'll have a minute to catch up. In the meantime, I have a dissertation to finish tonight. I have a comp exam to prepare for at 9:30 in the morning. That somebody's taking, and then I have 2 classes to prepare for.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to do this. I needed this.
Coffee.
Yes, I guess so.
Like double fisted.
I know. And that's after this 12-hour day. All right, well, it's been a blast, kind of. I'm glad you all can stay tuned. And I'll see you in 2 weeks. Email me with your questions.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night.